So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews. We'll discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Jay Baughan, who's founding chief executive at Pluggin Ecosystem. So, firstly, Jay, thank you for spending some time with us. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Pluggin Ecosystem, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Thank you, Chris. Yep. So I'm Jay Baughan. My journey began many years back in Africa. So we'll come on to that, I'm sure. But
Brilliant.
I've created an ecosystem with a bunch of nutters, social entrepreneurs,
Yeah,
where we have been just trying to make things work for businesses and charities that goes beyond matchmaking,
great.
tangible, as a way of disrupting the way that public procurement does social value. So
Yep,
this is the return on social investment we are all aware of
yep.
if we are a supplier into government, etc. But more than that, it's the ability to build on that within communities. So we've created a digital world
Yep.
which not just puts people together and positions news, but it's a way of building followings. It's a way of public procurement saying, no, we want more of this, and
Yep.
obviously we'll cover that off later. But and as a marketplace, we are adamant, having learnt this in Africa, that this is about businesses standing out by authentic social value, but
Great.
without losing sight of profit,
Yep,
because the
brilliant.
two need to be mutually aligned, as we know.
Love it, brilliant. Both of which I fully support. I'm really interested to know more. So, before we, if you could you give me a bit of an example of how that might work for a business or a charity? What if I was a business and I was interested in what you're doing? What would you tell me I could achieve, or how would you connect me with a charity, if that makes sense?
Well, the ecosystem started off as a way of connecting a business with charities that are actually making impact or are
Yep,
strategically benefiting a local area.
yep,
But really, coming out of COVID and getting to partner with public buyers, we realised that there is a disconnect with how businesses write that part of the bid around social value. What do
okay,
they
yep,
want? What could we do? And is it just about money? And effectively, how are we going to do this when we've got a day job?
yep,
So we've come at it from a business perspective, but also through the procurement side as well,
yep,
to position a sort of place where people can come in,
yep,
they can find what's needed within the area
yep,
for reducing youth crime or violence or exploitation, or things that are important to that local area,
yep,
because they'll be important to the buyers.
yes,
We've brought in police and crime commissioner objectives, so police and crime plans, because we all know that it costs us money on our taxpayer and council tax. But it's an ability for charities to do that too. A charity coming in isn't just going to put a nice little picture up and say, give us 5 grand towards something. We are an active charity. This is what we're supporting as strategic providers. We want businesses to come and work with us, collaborate with us as social value collaborators, and let's together put that into a contract,
yep,
and then let the procurement organisation look at that and say, is that sufficient enough as 10 or 15% of the weighting of a contract tender, enough for us to say, yeah, we'll tick that off, and we'll say yes, that ticks it. And then when the contract is awarded, rather than it just being put in a drawer and maybe got to later, our job is to sort of make sure that's front and center. So the charity pushes their collaborator, the business and the charity start thinking about marketing, building that sort of storytelling about what's happening now they've got together. That becomes part of the procurement review process. So rather than graphs and spreadsheets, it's now real time. It's visible on the ecosystem through news or feedback. And to a large extent, what that does then is it starts to build that market force approach. So
yep,
a business will stand out through its marketing of its social value in
yes.
this marketplace. So, from the big boys right down to your small, medium enterprise, solo or multiple solo providers, how are we making a difference? Is
Yeah.
this a level playing field when we haven't got the deep pockets of a bigger provider? But guess what? We're local. We know the environment. We know the people. We're
Yeah.
genuine. We post a lot on here about what we're doing. So
Yeah.
we've created very much an ability for people to come in for free. There's no charge for this.
Okay.
To just literally bring your table of wares like the old boot sales that we used to get in the fields, and everybody just gets on with it. But the
Great.
benefiting element is that's resource that's now being harnessed better.
Yeah.
It's channeled into activity that means that activities can sustain for longer. And ultimately, we want charities to be less dependent on grant funding and philanthropy and more business focused around let's work with a number of businesses potentially about what we do. We might need some back office support. We might need some project management support. We might need a bit of money, some laptops, whatever it might be. But the sustainability of the program that they're collaborating under starts to make an impact on local communities. You know, reducing
Wonderful.
vandalism, antisocial behaviour, whatever it is.
Wonderful. What a great thing to do. Brilliant. I'm keen to learn more about this and see if we can find a way to get involved. Um, but if Jay, if we kind of to sort of looking backwards for a little while, if you tell us a little bit more about your background specifically, how you got into business and why this particular one for you.
Well, so my journey began in 1988 when I left the army as a young soldier, disillusioned. So I joined retail. I got involved in retail logistics, so from a warehousing and
Okay. Yeah.
distribution perspective. And I quite quickly got sucked into solutions design because at that point, e-commerce was hitting us.
Yep.
In the late 80s, we moved to Sunday trading.
Yep.
We went and ended up using laptops and computers to do picking, and it was a really exciting time. And then through the 90s, with home delivery coming online as well, through the parcel networks, and
Yep.
and a lot of retailers outsourced to third-party logistics providers, and they all started buying each other up, and it was a real sort of wild west.
Yes.
So I spent 20 years in that space. I was involved towards the end of my career in retail with Ocado at the very beginning. So
Right.
blank piece of paper,
Yep.
30 million quid of John Lewis money, pension fund money to sort of get this off the ground, and then building
Brilliant.
the site at Hatfield and launching it from Hemel Hempstead inside Gist. It was fantastic. And what it taught me was that technology can drive a lot of
Yeah.
solutions. And there was a lot of innovation at that point. I'm talking sort of late 1998, 99, into the early 2000s. And so that sort of set my course. So I'd be the guy that would go into a DC or a depot or sort of an outlet, but we'd bring technology in to try
Right.
and sort of organize things better, as the old time and motion days
Yes.
have long gone. So that I cut my teeth on that, climbed the ladder as you do. But in 2008, I moved away from if you like corporate life, and I decided that there was an opportunity for me, a new road, if you like, and I ended up going out to the Middle East and Africa.
Right.
So at that point, I created a consultancy which was based on solutions design. And I worked with NGOs, I worked with government organizations, so sort of state teams, particularly in Nigeria to start with. We worked down in the Niger Delta region
Right.
where they were trying to get kids out of violent crime, gangs, and all that stuff that was stifling oil production. And I eventually sort of found that business was really engaged in that. Down in those days, so I'm talking 2011 now, there was a lot of oil money for CSR, but it was never spent. So
Right.
Shell, for example, had $35 million just sat there gathering dust
Right.
because they didn't know what to spend it on.
Yeah.
It was a violent part of Nigeria where oil fields were held to ransom, people being kidnapped, and
Yes.
so the government decided to do an amnesty program. It tried to get kids into vocational skills. It tried to give them employability and pathways. And I watched all of this and I thought, wow, this is amazing. And then, over the years in Africa, we then realised that a digital ecosystem approach gives a business a way of seeing what could be tapped into.
Yeah.
At that point, I was working out in Dubai, based out there, and trying to reach into different sort of government relationships and such. But what I found was that business was desperate to break new markets and to stand out.
Yeah.
So we started to play around with Facebook, and we started to play around with social media. So getting the charities to actually feature these brands, a bit like Benetton and
Yeah.
all of that stuff, to
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
the story of the impact that together we're making. And
Brilliant.
that's where the plug-in model was built.
Brilliant.
So CNN was a great help to me in Media City in Dubai, because they were saying this is called impact marketing, Jay. And if you can crack impact marketing, then you're creating a differentiator
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
particularly for tech brands.
Yeah.
So I went for it. But we got to the point where we were in Sri Lanka, we were in a lot of sort of Western, East, and Central Africa.
Yeah.
We were trying to get down to Kuwait and Qatar, and COVID hit. So you mentioned the word nimble and pivoting earlier.
Yes.
So, sitting in my back office, as it were, in my house during COVID, I
Yeah.
thought, we've got the technology.
Yeah.
We've got people that are desperately trying to get some support. So we were able to do some L&D, to get these charities supported by businesses that had the time
Yeah.
to run little project management courses or mentoring. And it was all done through an LMS, through an
Yes.
organization called Fuse Universal. And I thought, right, at some point, we're going to come out of COVID. And at some point, I'm going to need to focus on the UK, because the landscape's changed. At that point, you couldn't get out to the Middle East. So I didn't see a way of us being able to sort of pick it up.
Yeah.
And so we completely redesigned our model, us nutty social entrepreneurs. And so we created communities of practice inside this software,
Right.
and we decided to turn them into geographic areas.
Okay.
And in those geographic areas, you could put a little logo of a charity, and you could put a nice little video or a nice little sort of text page about who and what they are and what they're trying to achieve. You could start to get them to sort of collaborate using mediums like this for webinars and meetups and whatever. And we said, if we could get businesses to start to sort of come into you and want to be a part of your story, and all they wanted back was stories for their marketing feeds, how would you feel? And so we hit on a little bit of a win. But it was really 2022, 2023 when we realized that the big opportunity for this sort of approach would be the public procurement space,
Right.
because that had the Social Value Act, which
Yes. Of
had been
course.
around for quite a while, but everybody was doing things slightly differently.
Yeah.
Everybody was sort of going into an area just to win a contract and designing some social value.
Yeah.
Nobody was actually going in on the ground and saying, right, what are the local community needs?
Yeah.
We sort of learnt that.
Yeah.
So that's what we created. So I've been doing it now pretty much since 2008, just getting in amongst communities, using technology as the enabler,
Yeah.
and more now research, because obviously there's data, and that informs and it excites people.
Yeah.
But this social value journey has been painful. It's
Yeah.
been political.
Yeah.
It's been full of resistance, because it's tough. People do what they want to do, and if they can get away with it, they will. But we've turned a corner. Really, in 2025, we've been able to get a lot more traction with
Yeah.
public buyers, thinking, well, if this is all free, and you've got businesses now that can come in as part of tenders, so it's like an open door for them.
Yeah.
And you've got the charities that we know are working that can be supported for long term, and they're already making impact. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
We went, thank goodness for that.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And because it's interesting, isn't it? As you say, if it's if you can combine a requirement plus it's a as a profitable strategy, then you've got an absolute no-brainer there, haven't you? Really, I have to do it, and I can make money from doing it. You say
Yeah.
it's, and I
There's
think,
got to there's got to be a mutual benefit for
yeah,
any business to say, as part of my sales, I've got to do the social value. Right.
yeah,
Well, we can either tick a box or we can really embrace it.
yes,
And there's a lot of businesses that employ people to do it for them, so that the bid team have somebody to ring up and somebody writes the social value part for that.
got
There's
you,
nothing that's all joined up.
yeah. Yeah, it's I mean I believe and we do a lot of work with the businesses we work with that everything comes from purpose and value. And your marketing strategy should, because people, there's some great books, you're probably familiar with, Simon Sinek's Start With Why type book. And for me, marketing should be about telling people who we are, what's our identity, and therefore people can choose to be aligned with that or not. And the best, most profitable relationships are one where there is an alignment. And so it just makes absolute sense. So I mean, obviously you've had quite a varied career. I'm keep looking back. I mean, when you were growing up, did you foresee yourself
No,
running a social enterprise? What did you have other things planned for yourself?
no. Well, I mean, as a young, very, very young person, I was in the army cadets.
Of course, yes, yes, yeah.
So, from as soon as I was allowed to join, I was in. And then
Wow,
that was my career. But when I
yeah,
got in there, back then, you're talking early 80s, the culture was very, very different. It was very, very uh, old fashioned, let's put it that
yes,
way. So you
yeah,
you you were initiated and you
yeah,
had to
yeah.
be accepted. That turned into a thing called bullying, and it was all over the sun.
I remember that.
And I
Yeah,
realised that the world was changing, and I didn't fit in.
yeah,
I'd started off at 16. I joined 16 and a half. I joined as a junior leader. So you go off and they give you a year's training
yeah,
to be a leader of the future. But when you get to your unit, you just realise, this is. And back then it was the Cold War, so not a lot happened. If you didn't go to Northern Ireland, you were painting grass.
right,
Um, so yeah, that then spun me out, because now what do I do?
yeah,
And
yeah,
I fell into logistics literally. But what I found was logistics slash retail was such a changing beast. It's a great place to be.
yeah.
Keeps you on your
Brilliant,
toes.
brilliant. And so looking at how you've developed your business, what are some of the biggest challenges and issues you've had to overcome?
I think if you're too advanced in where you think you are, and what you're offering, and it's a little bit sort of out there, they don't get it, because it's got
Yep,
to fit a box. It's like, well, we do it this way, or they'll pigeonhole you as something they think you are.
yes,
So we've had to really think about how the website looks and feels, and it's had many different iterations. Ultimately, everything has been built around a wheel of four elements, which is, you can connect people, so hence put people together.
yep,
You can capture the essence of what it is they're going to be doing together. You can measure that, so you can
yep,
say it's working, and it's making real impact, and everybody's enjoying it, and then you can promote it. So ultimately the ecosystem is built around that. But when you're pitching it into a business, they're not that well. Salespeople don't have budget, and to a large extent, nor do social value teams. So that was the first learning curve.
yep,
Marketing people do. But to get the marketing people from people that sell into public sector, police, whatever, councils, marketing's detached from that. To a large extent, the marketing is more about the brand and everything. It isn't about supporting the sales.
no,
So we've had a painful journey trying to talk to everybody in a business to say, come into the ecosystem, but everybody's got a place to play. And
yep,
marketing in particular, you've got a great way of lining your brand values and your product with similar in communities. And of course, nobody's ever really sort of sat and thought about it. Well, I make widgets. How does that support a community? Yeah, but you've also got employability programs, apprenticeships. You've also got
yeah,
Sunday football that you sponsor. You've got charity fundraisers that you do. Oh yeah. So there's a little bit of a learning curve that we've had to sort of take people on, whilst we've also learned what technology appeals to who.
Yes.
So, do people want to go on a website and then into a portal and nobody can see them? Or do they want to be in the public domain where everybody is looking at everything? So I think that for me, it's been more about what is the appetite for this from business?
Yeah.
And you're not going to do it unless you're told to. So
Yeah.
we've worked hard with procurers to build it into the tender.
Yeah.
So you need to demonstrate your social value from this perspective with us,
Yeah.
where this is our playing field. But we want specifics, and we want to be able to measure that. And that measurement isn't whether you've run a program yourself as a business, as a side thing. It's whether you have delivered on what you said you'd give to a charity or group of charities, and
Yeah.
it's led to an impact. And guess
Yes.
what? Thanks very much. We've had a return on our investment.
Brilliant. Love it. Absolutely love it. And so obviously it's interesting when you said it was almost like explaining what we did. The challenge was that sort of educational side. I was talking to one of somebody earlier, and I said when we started in business coaching, which is now as an organization, as a global organization, 34 years ago, and I started 21 years ago. It didn't exist. We were sort of the spearhead. So really, it was explaining what we did, and then when people decided that's what they needed, then it was, well, you're the only people that can do it. And I think now, as I say, I always say you can spend 95 quid for a 2-day course to become a business coach. Good luck with that. But it's about education, and if you once people understand and it fits their needs, then the deal is done. Is in many ways,
Yeah,
but
I mean, one thing I knew, Chris, is that if procurement could see the fruits of the labour out of any marketplace that we've
yes,
created, it's going to be right. So, how much has been generated?
yes,
So, the first challenge was, well, no businesses wanted to come in, so they were trying to sort of encourage them to come in,
yep,
do us a favour, come in. We want to test this. But once everybody was in, once the tenders were starting to go live, and they were having to pop in to build the social value element of that with
yep,
us, we were capturing real insights.
yeah, brilliant,
And when the contract was being awarded and you were starting to see 14, 20, 25 grand's worth of equivalent, not cash, but equivalent
yeah,
commitment, everybody fell off their chairs and said, wow, imagine if we turn the volume up on this. And we
yeah,
said, but that's what we've been trying to say.
brilliant, brilliant. So, obviously, you face some challenges, overcome them. But what are some of the key tips you can provide about growing businesses? What are the things you've learned about ways of doing that, whether that's from the challenges or successes that you've had?
Yeah, I think for me, it's having a very clear business plan.
Yep.
A lot of people say, oh, it's a 30-page document, sits in the drawer. It doesn't have to be. It could be a one-page
Yes.
business model canvas, for want of a
Yes.
better
Yep.
word. So,
Great model. Yep.
no numbers in there if necessary. Just what are we trying to do here, and what are we offering? How are we different? And stay true to that.
Yeah.
So the vision is one thing, and I think being able to articulate that in your website is one thing. But I think it's been able to sort of make that work is the difficult piece.
Yeah.
And everybody tells you focus on your numbers. But I think it's a mixture of all those working parts being sort of looked at constantly, but equally the market will push you to change as well.
Yeah.
So it's been agile, isn't it? And if you are selling services or products, I think I've seen enough businesses punch above their weight and get contracts, and it's fantastic to see.
Yeah.
But we've equally seen a lot of the big players monopolize. So, and I think again, it's like, well, how do we come up against that? So we've had a lot of confusion about what we are, because we're a social enterprise. Nobody
Yeah.
knows what a bloody social enterprise is. Ultimately, we don't make profit for profit's sake. We make it because it plows into impact. But
Yeah.
we're still a business. We still
Yeah.
need to trade. So what's happened is a lot of competitors have been found. Portals, for example, that charge a percentage of the value of any contract, or matchmaking portals that say, well, we can put charities in front of you and you can go shopping in there. Well, what we found was if you stay true to your vision stay true to your business model canvas. The difference is we've got to see an end-to-end link up. So if a charity is going to get support from a business, let's see what that really looks like. So guess what? They can push out and get more businesses to start coming to support them.
Yeah.
But there's got to be an upside for the business, which is that they can leverage that and win more contracts.
Yeah.
So, we have evolved along the lines of investing into more technology development, investing into better storytelling, investing into data sharing. So if a round of so we've broken the ecosystem into 44 areas. So that's police territories, if you want to call them that.
Yeah.
But that covers the whole of the UK. So one territory might just be Scotland, but another could be Thames Valley, which is 3 counties.
Yeah.
So the idea is let's start showing the activity as real transactional data.
Yeah.
So you could say that this marketplace has gone from there, where we had 2 or 3 contracts a month, to 100 contracts a month, because now the council's come on board and we've got the NHS doing the same. But everybody's focused on those same impact objectives of reducing crime, protecting children, stopping this, creating apprenticeship pathways so kids can find a way through.
Yes.
And market that. And so what we've decided is that's where our focus needs to go. We had to flip our business model. We had to flip our business model in January. This has been a self-funded element to start up with, but to charge businesses a membership fee to come in just wasn't working for us. It was almost a blocker.
Right.
So what we did is we went back to our original model out from Africa, which was, as a marketing team, we'll give you the ability to sponsor limited spaces, sponsor an area, a territory.
Yeah.
So that you're enabling that free flow of social value movement and impact to happen. And we'll charge X just to put your badge on there. But guess what? We'll go a stage further. We gave them a profile page, embedded a video in there, gave them a news feed, gave their marketing team access to a form that they could then post like we do on LinkedIn. And it's gone absolutely mental. And that was because we thought we've got to sort of think a way around this. We've got to stay on track.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Wowzers. I can see how you've developed this over time and what and I mean it's not something that I would imagine existed before you created it in many ways. That isn't a model. I'm trying to think of a business model that might be relevant to it, but it's not really.
No, I mean a news agency approach was where I started. So in Dubai, I was lucky enough to sit with media savvy people in Dubai.
Yeah.
And I got a friend, Paul, who was based out there at the time. So that was my base. And we were able to sort of build an understanding of what motivates marketers to spend money.
Yeah.
And that was around getting a bang for their buck. So, I can't give people stats to say X amount of people have done X, Y, or Z with your content. But what I can do is I can give you a far better profile. And we learned that really the sort of marketing community has very deep pockets and will spend money if it needs to. Only people spend for trade shows, stands, waste money on digital marketing. So I think for me, it's very much about focusing on that element and saying, right, we've got to make money, but we've got to make sure people get an upside.
Yes.
And the more I've gone back to that and said, it only costs X for 6 badges on an area. There's 44 areas. That's £500,000 a year. That will more than cover the free access and the ongoing developments. Yep. We've got a little plug-in studios now where one of the shareholders is a lecturer at the University of Northampton. And we did a little prototype for a film unit using his students and graduates to cut their teeth.
Brilliant.
We've made some videos about Milton Keynes and the sort of underbelly down there. So that's what we've done. So our profit will go into that. But equally, Nathan came up and said, why don't we teach the charities to use their mobile phone and a little microphone to tell their own stories in real time, upload those and share them with their business sponsors.
Brilliant.
Media can do. So, it's for me, it's about just thinking outside the box, but staying true to that business model.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation, Jay. So I'm just keen to know the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general, or even the army. But who's had the biggest impact on you?
Army for a number of reasons, but I think um, from my experience of business coaches, including Action Coach, which I know has evolved rapidly, and some of you have been around a long time, it is about the person. And I think once people realise that the person is the leader, and I studied intensely emotional intelligence.
Yep.
I worked with Roche Martin in Africa, and we developed a
Oh,
whole
okay.
raft of stuff in terms of how we might help um, community coaches and counsellors and
Yep.
youth workers to use emotional intelligence. And I learned from Nigeria, there's no point taking a kid out of the hood, sticking them in a classroom and making them a welder. They still haven't got the
Yes.
inward ability
Yeah.
to get that job and keep that job.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the coaching element started for me when I was 16 and a half, 17. Organization skills, plan, stick to your plan, adapt your plan, pivot, as we keep saying. But again, it's realizing when you are close to burnout, when you're pushing the envelope a little bit. Teams, what drives teams are individuals. I think we've learned a lot over the years. And then you apply the business principles around that. And I've seen some really successful outcomes for people,
Yep.
even to the point where in a lot of the bigger organizations I work with, they used to have their own internal coaches
Yeah.
who were people from HR, didn't have a bloody clue.
Yes.
So they started to draft in the sort of the old salts, as it were,
Yep.
from within the business. Particularly the parcel networks were good at that. The sort of depot managers that had really done well started to be flown around the depots,
Right.
turn them around. But they were just, stick and carrot merchants back then.
Yep.
So I think that approach, and I've looked at Action Coach's model, and I've looked at that whole person holistic view,
Yep.
and I think it works. And I think a lot of people think there's some magic solution. And I worked at the University of Northampton as social entrepreneur in residence with them, and we tried to get an incubator off the ground for SMEs
Right.
from within the university.
Yep.
So we started to do a lot of sort of stuff with Business Link
Yep.
and all of that stuff, which
Yep.
ultimately a lot of people dialing in, and we say do an MOT on your business. What does that entail? So it gave them a little sort of pictorial approach of it, but do an MOT, and I do that constantly. Lift the lid on that. Is that level working? Oh, that's not quite right. That doesn't sound right. That includes the people as well. So I'm not just saying it because I'm on this show. I strongly believe I've never had the value in my career of having a mentor, or I've had friends that have mentored me. So Roche
Yep.
Martin Newman himself, a very good friend of mine, helped me, challenged
Brilliant.
me. But in terms of the investment into an Action Coach support for the business growth, I think that sits alongside your business model.
Brilliant. Wonderful. Yeah, no, obviously I would agree with you given what I do, but
Of course you would.
great to hear the external reference. Funnily enough, I'm trying to think how long ago. I had dinner with Martin at an Action Coach event
Fabulous.
probably 15 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
We've had a close connection with Roche Martin for quite a
He's
while.
an amazing guy.
It
And
really
Judy as
is.
well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely fascinating. And from whether it's coaches, mentors, or anywhere else, do you have any favourite quotes or sayings about business or success that you catch
Oh
yourself?
no, I'm hopeless with that.
Good man.
Honestly. I mean, Martin Newman will spout them on a podium, and he'll be like, blah blah. I'm like, where does he pull this stuff from? No, I don't absorb it,
All
unfortunately.
good, all good. I collect them, so I just love picking them up. But I mean, likewise, forgive me if you don't. It's okay if you don't have a comment for them. But any favorite books or podcasts about business or success that you recommend, or
Not that I've looked at for a while. I do follow in the early episodes of Diary of a CEO, because I
yes,
think back then he had real people in
yep,
with real messages that resonated with me at that
yes,
time.
Yep.
Now it's a little bit too general, and we're talking about sex one minute and pills the next, and but so that was one. But no, I again useless. I haven't really got anything
Not,
I could recommend, but
not at
I'm
all.
constantly searching.
Yeah, no, well, I might recommend. I'll send you a link to our BizX podcast. Well, obviously, you can obviously watch this one as well. But we have our national one where we do have some quite a lot of really interesting sort of fairly well known people speaking. So that might be helpful.
Well,
Um,
there's one you might be interested, and I'm only joking here. Martin recommended years ago that I did a TED talk
yes,
about what I was doing in Africa, and at that point we were really driving emotional intelligence into those communities that we were supporting.
yes.
And I did one. I did a TEDx up in North Wales.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and I was awful, but I think those platforms are really good as well because for
Yes.
me that's knowledge sharing, and like people, if I want to know how to do something in my house, I go on YouTube and I
Yeah,
look
yeah.
it up, and I think that's
100%.
where it's gone now. Yeah.
Whereabouts in North Wales did you do that?
Was it I think it was Conway. So
Conway.
it
Yeah,
was,
probably makes sense.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
from
yeah.
there, so I was just
Oh,
thinking.
okay. Well, my mate used to live up there, Aled. I was in the army with him in Llandudno.
Yeah,
So
cool.
he arranged it all for me, and
Just
then I
next
went up in
door.
the car. Yeah, it took me
Uh,
forever.
yeah, it's a long way. It's a long from most places. It's a long way. As they used to say, where how do I get how do I get to Conway? Well, I wouldn't start from here. I think is the phrase.
Absolutely.
um, and speaking of learning, then Joe, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far?
Oh, goodness me. Know your limits.
Okay.
I think everybody's got a limit to what they know, what they can do, what they can withstand.
Yeah.
2008, I had a nervous breakdown. I literally imploded. And that's what pivoted me. Sorry to keep using that word.
It's all
That's
right.
what
It's all good.
moved me into a new direction in terms of who and what I was, because
Yeah.
you just disintegrate into, well, what do I do? What can I do? What's the future? And me being me, I just sat down with a piece of paper and I just got it down, and I thought, right,
Brilliant.
this is what I can do. This is what I could do, and then you get networking, and I managed to get myself into the University of Sheffield. Um, at that point, I was doing some guest lecturing, so that got my confidence up. Then I got a tap on the shoulder from the Nigerians who were alumni saying, look, we've got this Niger Delta amnesty program. Would you want to get involved? And then it just took off from there. And I think, again, for me, I've learned to embrace opportunity. I suppose you could call it being entrepreneurial, but you weigh up the pros and cons and you say, right, let's make a calculated decision here.
Yeah.
But like I say, for me, it's about that MOT, constantly checking in to say, and in the early stages, I didn't. I never checked in and I just carried on. Being able to cut the throttle and turn the engine off is just as powerful, I think, as going for the sky.
I, yeah, that take a step back, because it's sometimes you've just got to slow down. In fact, somebody I was speaking to earlier, she said, right from her childhood, her mum used to say, just breathe, and it's just sometimes we just need to take a step, check where we are, and make a new plan to get to where we want to go.
Yeah,
And without it, we can be working really, really hard and not. I often say to people, sometimes we could be really hard in the wrong direction if we haven't actually taken a step back and we've had a
yeah.
slight few degrees to the left over time. Eventually, we can be going around in a circle.
I've got a
So
good analogy. So on Saturday, I decided because we're up here in Scarborough, so got blessed with the weather, blessed with
lovely,
whatever sun we can, and I've managed to buy a property that's got some good land at the back, garden
lovely,
land. So I'm up in a tree, which is far too big, and it's blocking all the sun out from the washing line. I thought, right, I'm inside this tree, cutting it, and I thought to myself, what are you doing? Go back into the garden, look at the tree, and keep. So that's what I did. I followed my own advice and
brilliant.
got the shears on the outside, and we've managed to reduce it down to next to nothing. So the analogy for me is, you do what you do on the day to day and everything else. People say live outside of the business rather than inside of the business. I think you've got to do both.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you drive yourself insane.
perfect. I would agree, and that actually leads us on to my next question for you, which is so in Action Coach, one of the definitions we have, or the key definition we have of a true business is a commercial profitable enterprise that works without its owners. So the ability to be independent. How do you feel about that?
We could be. So, me being front of house has only been to get the thing moving into closed circles.
Great.
But we've now got a digital business. We've got a business that is automated, so people can sign up, get in. They immediately get their log on credentials. They can immediately start to get into the members area. They can start posting. Charities in the same way. Their
Yep.
profile suddenly appears. If a business comes in and wants to engage, it's there.
Yep.
I think, going forwards, the team, we've all got our own focus areas, but this has the ability to just keep going and going and going, and to the point now where we've actually got public buyers. So we've got a steering group that we've created out of some of the more senior police buyers that have been behind a lot of this.
Yep.
And they are just coming at us left, right, and centre with, well, we could do this with electric vehicle charging and retail crime. We could do this with the employer's levy, which could be converted into social value, and they want to keep going and going and going.
Brilliant.
And we're like, yeah, bring it on. It only takes creating a web page and a click through button and building the back end to be able to accept that as a what we call an SPO for the bid. You've got it. And guess what? You'll get all your data from it. Oh,
Brilliant.
this is fantastic. So for me, yeah, wheels of a bus has always been in my mind.
Yeah.
Asked me that question last year, I'd have said no.
Brilliant.
Yeah, too
Brilliant.
embryonic.
It's very difficult, and again, it comes back to that idea of being able to take a step back. Because most people I meet, they're so right up to the wall, they can't see that's there, but still working really, really hard to push the wall down.
Yes. Yeah.
Are wondering why they're not getting anywhere. So that makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. So looking forward, Joe, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
I think the future for us is scale. And that's not scale in terms of world domination. It is, you've got a motorway network is the terminology I use. Built, it's all tarmacked, it's all lit.
Yeah.
It just needs more cars,
Cool.
and these cars are bids. People coming in to do bids, people ringing each other up and saying, right, well, if we come and work with you for this contract, this is what we'll do. Right, okay, and letting that happen and that evolve, and then for all of this to suddenly start morphing
Yeah.
into an autonomous ecosystem, which is why we called it the ecosystem.
Yeah.
That's where we're going, and 5-10 years down the line, this could be something that could then be handed over to a grant making foundation of some kind to say, right, let's take it to the next level. In my mind, I'd love a John Cordwell to come along with his living will and say, Jay, let's build it faster, bigger, because obviously there's investment needed in it, but it's got a commercial model to it.
Yep.
So, and so for me, I've got my eye on that.
Yep.
We are heavily involved now with talking to universities because we want the impact data from this, like the old social impact bond.
Yep.
Whereas social value becomes that seed funder at the beginning.
Yes.
The return on investment from that is the fact that we start seeing less young people going into custody, less young people in A&E getting knifed, less kids getting sucked into criminal gangs because there's nothing else. So 5-10 years down the line, this really could be something that is eventually self-prophesizing.
Brilliant. Well, I love that, and anything we do to help you make that happen, would be delighted to do so. And can you say what you'd say to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now, Jay?
Do it. Do
Cool.
it. I think if you are realistic with, and a lot of people bootstrap. When I use the word bootstrap, it really is bootstrap. Everybody gets paid before me, for example.
Yeah.
But do it, learn, reach out, like you say. There's plenty of coaches. There's a lot of people that are prepared to be mentors. We're talking to a lot of businesses now in terms of social value being mentorship. And the community.
Yes.
Oh, that's not social value. That's volunteer. No, it's actual corporate time.
Yeah.
To look after maybe 3 or 4 young people that want to do something in maybe media or what, and saying, right, we'll meet up once a month, whatever.
Love
Let me
it.
share my knowledge with you as you know, as your mentor. You know, this isn't about teaching you business; it's about helping you, and I'm all for that. And it
Brilliant.
might be something that we end up doing a lot of within our environment. But you know, I think for me that's what I would be sort of looking at: young people taking the leap without taking the risk.
Yes. No, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And if you started again, is there anything significant you think you do differently?
I'd get a backer. I would. You know, something as ambitious as this. This is evolved,
Yeah.
but it's taken everything we've had, everything we've got,
Yeah.
and I'm not just talking about our money; it's our time.
Yeah.
And I think as well, it's a lot of the learnings of how do you penetrate closed corridors of public procurement or public bodies. You're dealing with egos, politics, you name it. Um, that's what I would do differently. But you know, the UK spends 300 billion a year on goods and services through its public procurement. That's Cabinet Office own figures from 2 years ago. And you think to yourself, okay, that's a massive marketplace. When you break them into verticals, you know, when you've got like vehicles and ICT and facilities management and across all of those buying groups, they've all got buildings to look after. They've all got spend. And you think, right, okay, imagine now being able to navigate that better because you understand what resistance you're going to get. You
Yeah.
know, in one area only out of all of the areas we've now managed to get fertile, I see them as fields, really, these 44 areas.
Yeah.
West Mercia is being driven by one individual, a guy called John Strelitz, who's the head of procurement of police, who got the vision immediately and he's really gone for it to the point he's knocking on the door of the council, he's knocking on the door of the fire and rescue and going, guys, if we're really going to start tackling crime on our streets, if we're going to start to, we've all got to get our procurement aligned.
Brilliant.
And that only came about because I was able to get the police and crime commissioner at Thames Valley to talk about this that we were doing with them on camera. So
Brilliant.
we got it on video, you know, we filmed it ourselves. I could have done that in the very beginning. It would have been
Yeah.
brilliant.
Nice. But again, hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Oh, it
Um,
is, isn't it?
so final question, Jay. What would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do so?
Take your time.
Take your time.
Don't rush. Think about what you're doing. I would be one of those guys that would jump from one boat to another, and it wasn't always because of money. You know, I was
No,
impatient. You name it, I was there. And you know, you get to well, I'm 60 next year, and you think, shit, if I could go back just 10 years.
no. No, get it. I get it. But the interesting thing is, in all honesty, is what got you know the challenges that we have are also the benefits that we would you wouldn't be here without everything that you've got. However,
Absolutely.
despite how frustrating some of that might be, if you know what I mean, and I know
Yeah,
that for
I
myself.
made a lot of mistakes, rushing decisions. I made emotive decisions instead of logical commercial decisions, and I suffered for it. So yeah,
Yep,
that's what I would tell myself.
cool. Well, Jay, it's been really fascinating talking to you, and I really wish you all the best with everything you're doing. And
Thank you.
clearly, you're doing a lot for good. So that's wonderful. And I say anything we did to help would be great. And for anyone that's watching who'd like to get in touch with you or the ecosystem, what would be the best way of doing that?
Just go to plugin.org, and it's there. You can get us.
Brilliant. Well, look, it'd be great to swing by another 6, 12 months and just see the developments and get some more learnings from you. But for now, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.